Hello everyone, thank you for tuning in. I very recently got a request about brush recommendations, so I thought I would go through my full face recommending some brushes that I love, and they're all drugstore too, which I feel like there are a lot of people who are pretty convinced that you can get great makeup at drugstore prices, but I'm not so sure everyone feels the same way about brushes. But let me tell you, between the brands of e.l.f., Real Techniques, Profusion, there are some amazing brush options out there that can take care of every need, and I know I use most of them in most of my videos, drugstore brushes, but today they're just going to be more the focus of the look and what I talk about. So I'm going to get started. I'm going to use my primer, and the first brush I'm going to pull in is from e.l.f. So this is a must-have, the e.l.f. Complexion Duo Brush. This is going to be your friend for foundation and concealer, and also, as you'll see, I'm going to use it with my glowy primer here. This is my Maybelline Perfector 4-in-1. And this is something you kind of multitask with this thing. You could wear it on top of makeup for a little bit of a glow. I really like the way it performs as a primer. It gives my skin a light amount of glow, but it's very thin. It's kind of similar to the new Catrice one, actually. That's why I kind of like them both. But this one's probably even thinner on the skin. And I just buff it in, and I feel like the skin starts to come to life a little bit. I've already got my skincare on, of course. And this brush is just the perfect size for buffing something like this in. If you've got a primer that's got a little bit of color or a little bit of a shimmery finish to it, this is great for just quickly and easily getting that worked in all over the skin. And then we can use that very same thing to blend out our foundation. Today I'm using my Neutrogena Sensitive Skin Serum Foundation. I have this in the shade Light Medium, and it's a really pretty product on the skin I've kind of been getting more into lately. I know these serum things are kind of hot, but this one's been out for a while now. And you see how that dropper kind of like dabs a lot in one zone, so I can just take the large part of this brush and I'm sort of stamping it all over the skin so it gets a little bit more evenly distributed. And then I can just buff around, get it everywhere I want it. You can flip to the detail side if you feel like, oh, I got some in an area I can't really reach or blend. But it's just the ideal little multitasking brush. So yes, definitely the first thing I would recommend. And also something I used off camera before the video got started, my e.l.f. tweezers. Those are truly my favorite everyday use little tweezers. I know they were $2 for a long time. I think they may now be $3, but still totally worth it, beyond worth it. Absolutely love my little e.l.f. tweezers. And look at this quick blend. This is a fairly large brush. As far as blending goes, you know, it gets the job done super quickly, especially with these thin, lightweight, serum type of foundation products. It really handles them quick. And look at the radiance that just brought to my skin. I love that. Next, we're going to do some concealer. I'm bringing in my e.l.f. Hydrating Camo Concealer. This is in the shade Light Peach. By the way, did anyone see the e.l.f. Super Bowl ad? I loved it. I actually saw, I think, an extended version of that on Instagram last week. I thought it was so funny. And I just thought it was interesting that they were finally going there, because e.l.f. has long been a brand that hasn't really done a lot with advertising, I guess outside of the social media sense. But there we are with our camo concealer, and we're gonna just keep multitasking with this brush. We're gonna take the small end. If you watch a lot of my videos, you see me do this a lot, but I like to take the little end and do my spreading. And then the big end does the buffing or the patting. And yes, I am a little tired. I did catch the whole Super Bowl. There was a short period there, maybe in the third quarter, where I fell asleep for a bit. But overall, I saw it. So here we are now with the big end, just patting. And see, this is coverage preservation here. Just patting over it with your larger end. You know, you don't need to do any more work than that. And then, you know, go over things if you need to. If you feel like, oh, maybe I got an excessive amount of product here or there, use your little small end. But this brush is just worth its weight in gold. Terrific blending, multitasking, and I've been sitting here on camera all this time. It's done my primer, my foundation, my concealer. Next up, we're gonna pull in a little bit of setting powder, and here's where you can use another really affordable product. It's not technically a brush, but it's a powder puff, and you can get these in a multi-pack for super cheap from Amazon. It's just a little velour powder puff. They're fully washable, so it's not like a disposable thing. You can totally wash it, get it clean, it'll be nice and puffy again. But the thing I really like about these is that they're small enough, pointed enough to really reach those inner corners. So I'm picking up a little bit of this Wet n Wild translucent powder, and I'm just dabbing it around the area, and I'm getting straight up into that lower lash line and all the way into the inner corner with no problem. I find myself also using this just right around my T-zone. We hit that area between the brows, we go around the nose, I press the powder to the side of the nostril, and we can dust away excess. We will be. But just a super little tool to have on hand, and I feel like it's caused me to like a lot of my loose powders better as a whole because of just the way it lays down the product. The next thing I'll mention, it is available in a little trio set from Walmart, so hang on here just a sec. So Profusion brushes are amazing. They've got like this little powder type of brush called round tapered powder. They've got this buffing brush, which could be really good for a foundation step or also cream contour, cream blush. I think that's how I'm going to use that today. And then they've got this little flat setting powder brush. This one's a heck of a lot like your Real Techniques setting brush. So it's a nice little set, and I'm going to take the powder one, which is really nicely sized, not too big, not too small, and I'm just going to use that to kind of dust away my powder. And I do often pull in a brush called Morphe Under Eye Bullet Brush. It's a lot like this really, but here I feel like you could get a little better value by getting several brushes just all in one, you know? So we dust away that excess and boom, there we go. And then let's say, not that I would have to do this with this look, but let's say we want to add a little more powder elsewhere on the face. I'll take this Butter Glow stuff. This is their just translucent glow butter pressed powder. Same brush I just used to dust away excess. And a lot of times I pull in my BK Beauty 107 if I'm doing some all over powder or if I'm doing some bronzer. But this brush, truly, it can handle it. No problem. This powder has a little bit of radiance to it, and this brush is great about not throwing on too much product at once. Great for dabbing. You can do kind of a buff with it too. This could do blush really well, bronzer. In fact, I'm going to let this brush do my bronzer today. I'm just going to go into Wet n Wild Wet Shady Beaches here and just buff that around my hairline. So again, the multitasking. And if you got several brushes, you know, there are just more brushes in your collection that you own. If you've got another powder brush that you like and you're like, you know, I don't want to be using the same thing for bronzer that I used for dusting away under eye powder or something, fine, you know, grab for something else. e.l.f. also has a great brush called the highlighting brush that makes a super like multitasking powder brush all over the face. So there are other options if you want to just own more. But in this video, I'm pretty much going to show you like every way something can multitask. So just easily getting a little contour. I love the way this brush, and it's specifically called the PD8 round tapered powder, fits really nicely in that cheek hollow zone. And these are just absolutely soft as can be, these Profusion brushes. And yeah, you may see them right there in your Walmart store. If your Walmart does not carry Profusion, you can of course check Walmart's website, order online, check Profusion. Oh, another thing I wanted to mention, if you're not into brushes for foundation and you would rather use a sponge, probably my favorite drugstore face sponge is the e.l.f. Total Face Sponge. It has the one flat angle, and I feel like just the texture of it feels a lot like a classic beauty blender. Okay, next thing, let's dab on a little bit of a cream so you can see how I would handle a cream texture with the brushes I have. This is one of Wet n Wild's new Mega Glow shades of their blush stick. It's the one called Current Jam. It's just a creamy, actually looking up close at it, it's got a little satin finish in there. So we're going to dab that on, make a little streak. Looks a little mauve-y. Oh no, there's a cat scratching at the girls' door. I gotta deal with that. And then I can take my buffing brush from Profusion. So this is different from the powder brush we've just been using. I can use this buffing brush. It's a great shape and size. Another one that could be great for this, other than a Sephora 56. I know I use a Sephora 56 a lot here. But look. It's not a far cry from this brush shape, so it's really good. And it's what you want is density, and you don't want too much size. And this is just about perfect in that way. A Real Techniques Expert Face Brush would be another good option. And not just for this step, but if you wanted to use cream bronzer, if you wanted to use cream highlighter, this brush could be great for that. That's a pretty shade. It sheared out even more than I thought. Let's try their other new color. It's called Dusty Pink, and it definitely shows even more of a metallic look, just looking at the stick. Let's give a little more of that. And I feel like it kind of goes without saying, but you know, this brush would do good with liquid too. If you've got some kind of dropper style product, just any cream or liquid texture. I like the amount of glow that's giving. It's not giving quite as much color as you might think from the stick. That glow is phenomenal. And then you're like, you know what, Em? I'm a powder blush lover. I'm not into all these creams and liquids. Well, e.l.f. blush brush. e.l.f. blush brush is perfect. I'm going to use it with an e.l.f. blush here. This is the one called Bright Pink. It's just a couple bucks at Walmart. And I'm just going to layer on. Because why not? We like a little blush layering moment. I think everything's going to last better if I do this. Such a pretty shade. Such a fresh, classic pink shade. This brush is just absolutely perfect for me. I've used it for I don't know how many years. It's gone through so many washings. It still holds up well. You just gotta know, there are great drugstore brushes out there. There really are. And like I said, with some available in sets, with some that are multitasking, you can definitely save some money. Thank you, e.l.f. blush brush. Next up, if we're talking highlighter, if I were using a cream or a liquid, I would probably bounce back to this buffing brush from Profusion and let that do the job. If I'm using a powder, I can go to this third brush that was in the Profusion trio. This one's called Flat Setting Powder. This could be good actually dusting away anything under the eye. This could be good for highlighter, any targeted powder that you want to apply to the face. Great option. And just to show you, another one I love, if you already have your Real Techniques setting brush, it's basically the same kind of shape and size here. So my little Real Techniques setting brush, I lost the end, but you know, the brush is still fine. I keep using it. But yeah, if we're thinking of being a little more cost effective with things and just sticking to the little set, if you buy this set, here's how it goes. You know, you can just go into your Revlon Skin Lights or any highlighter that you love, and it's just the perfect shape and size. It'll place that exactly where you want it to go, and it's got enough fluff, enough mobility to those bristles to easily blend it out. You don't want to be using something that's too dense and too tightly packed with the brush hairs, because this is something we want fairly sheer on our cheeks, you know? We want a small brush, but enough fluff and movement to really help things move around. So there's our complexion, guys. At bare minimum, we use this and then these brushes. Adding in a powder blush step, it's the e.l.f. blush brush as well. I'm going to go ahead and do my brows, and by the way, if you need a brow brush recommendation or just angled liner in general, Profusion makes one of those too. Okay, so a nice little angled brush. This could work in your brows. This could work as angled liner. It's got the spoolie on the other end, so that's always an option. But yeah, I'm going to do my brows and then we'll talk eye brushes. Brows are done. Eye primer is on. I use Milani eyeshadow primer today, and I want to mention this 3-pack of Profusion eye brushes. 2 of them are absolute daily use MVPs for me, and one is the brush that I use in my crease. I just call it the Profusion crease brush, like that's just my slang for it here on my channel, but this is actually the Firm Blending Eyeshadow Brush ES2, okay? But that's what I put in my crease. It's a little bit pinched in there at the top of the ferrule. It is the perfect shape and size and softness for crease blending. If you want to kind of clean it off in between steps, it's fine to do a little highlight up under the brow as well. And then this small pointed brush, this is called the ES6, and this is just terrific for shaping your outer corner. It could do some smudgy liner, honestly, top or bottom. I often use it on my lower lash line too. Just like the best shape and size. It's so unique. This brush is total control, okay? This really lets you shape the way you want things there. If you feel like your eye looks end up looking kind of muddy, messy, get your hands on this type of brush, this shape and size of brush, and as you'll see, we can really work with our shadow in the outer corner. Now this set also comes with this little guy called Flat Precise Eyeshadow ES7, and this is very small. Can you see how short that is? Okay, this is fine like working around your inner corner, like doing a little spotlighting shade there. I have reached for it from time to time. I think this would have been a more versatile kit if this brush was about the size of this brush, a larger flat brush. Flat brushes are very hard to come by in brush sets, I find. So I do have other recommendations that are in the drugstore price range for that. So we'll get there when we get there. Some of y'all are like, why are you even explaining this, Em? You talk about these brushes in every video, but this may be the first video that someone has found from me. So I am going to discuss this in depth today. We're going to use a very basic little quad. This is from Hard Candy. It's one of their monochrome moods shadow quads. This is the shade called Bear. So we have a shimmer here with this bronze. We've got a light shimmer here, a mid-tone, and a deep color, okay? So let's go into that mid-tone first with the brush that we're using in the crease. So this again, it's the ES2, but I call it the Profusion crease brush, available in that little set. And this is just going to be your perfect starting point for putting that mid-tone shade right there in your crease But as we know, it's not just the crease, it's above the crease as well, right? Because we want lift. So we take it up and we try to use our space as best we can. But there's a soft little bit of color. See the difference? Okay, let's go over to the other eye. Really easy, just back and forth motion. The brush is so soft. It's dense, but it's got just enough movement to really make you feel like, yes, this can blend something out. If I have a troublesome shadow that I don't feel like likes to blend, this could take care of it, you know? That's what it's all about. If you're keeping a small stash of brushes, and what I'm kind of trying to tell you about in this video is like the bare minimum you can have, those brushes need to be able to do those jobs for you. They need to be able to work with the easy stuff, but they also got to be able to play with the harder to work with shades and make them blend. Hello, you. She stayed up a little bit late. She watched the halftime show. Oh, what's that little sneer? Okay, let mommy finish. Love you. Okay, so what about just blending in general? Do you need to buy a separate brush that could just be a blending brush? Well, Profusion does make one called Pointed Crease Brush, which I actually sometimes use just as a blender. It's this brush, but not pinched in at the ferrule. That pinch, the reason why I like that is because I like the back and forth motion, the little bit of more control that I get because the brush is now not just fluffy, but it's a little bit like going side to side. So yeah, Profusion does make one of those. It's kind of harder to come by because it's not in that little set and not just sitting out there at Walmart all the time. But here's what you can do, okay? You just did some crease work. Clean that off, or clean it off on one of those little like handheld brush cleaner. Do I have one of those around here? Where you can just like swipe on it and it picks up the last shadow you used. Sigma makes one of those and it's really handy. But you know, just make any kind of effort to get the shadow you just used off the brush, and then you're just blending, okay? And then we say, how about a highlight shade? Let's keep that same brush in our hands. Let's go to that highlighter, lightly dab in, boom, it's applying right under the brow. So you can make one brush do more than one step. You've just got to be a little more conscious of what was just on that brush and how thoroughly you're willing to get it cleaned off between steps. Here, this wasn't too risky. This is a pretty light shade. I can kind of make sure my brush is clear of it and then move on. Now, flat brushes, as we said, the flat brush that is included in this Profusion set is absolutely teensy. So we got to look elsewhere for that nice flat brush that can pack down some shadow on the lid. And my favorite one comes from Morphe, and I've looked all over the place. I've tried so many brush sets that absolutely skimp on a flat brush. I don't know what the deal is with different brands, but they'll give you something that maybe looks flat at a glance, but then you get it in your hands and you look sideways and you're like, it's chunky. Why they always gotta give a chunky brush there? It needs to be flat. We need something that can pat it on. So this Morphe M167, in all my videos, I just call this the Morphe flat brush, okay? And I would go in at this point to my deep shade with the flat brush, and we can start patting that on the outer part of our eyelid here. Why does it need to be so flat, Em? Why can't I just go in with something fluffy? Well, the flatness of the brush lets you pack on the shadow. We're talking maximum pigment type of application here. The crease shade that we just used, that was not a maximum pigment application. We wanted that to look sheer and soft and lovely. Here, we want to press it down. We want that shadow to really lay on there. And the flat brush is really going to do that for you. I mean, it's useful for these mattes. It's super useful when we start bringing in shimmers. Some shimmers can be troublesome. Some shimmers would not do a darn thing with a brush that was slightly fluffy. It just wouldn't lay down for you. And if you're in a really hard spot and you're like, yeah, you know, I'm not interested, don't have an Ulta nearby, don't want to order online, need something that could pack on, then a sponge tip applicator. A sponge tip applicator would honestly do better than some of the mildly fluffy brushes that are sold to be an eyeshadow brush in a lot of makeup sets. So you do have that option. So yeah, now what have I done here? I've patted that shade on. It doesn't look especially blended, and it doesn't need to because we've got another step for that. In our little Profusion trio, the other MVP most useful type of brush, this small pointed brush. Look what I can do now. I have nothing on it, and I can just go over the edge of what was put in the outer corner, and we really reached up to the crease with it. And now look, I've got all the control to blend that. And if I wanted to add more, okay, I can go right into my outer corner. I'm doing a circular type of motion, and watch me raise that shadow up. And I've got all the control because this is not a big brush, okay? Not a big brush. Circular little motions. Everything's still looking soft. I'm going in the direction of the tip of my brow. I'm thinking of an imaginary line here that I'm not dropping beneath. And look, I got softened lift. So again, the ways you can use this: go straight into what was applied there. No real need to add anything extra if you don't want to. Just start swirling and softening where that shadow ended, and really make sure it's brought fully into the crease. There's one stopping point. Or go into your dark shade or any shade that's approaching darkness and start swirling that. Thinking about, where am I swirling? Well, the tip of the brow is a guideline, and thinking about how we don't want to drop beneath this line, because then we won't look quite so lifted, will we? But darkness in the outer corner, what's the point of that? Well, from a distance, when you see somebody, you may not see the ins and outs of every part of their eyeshadow look, but what you can see is lift. You can see, honestly, the effect that you would want false lashes to give you, which is lift. So that's why I do, personally, a lot of darkness on the outside, often. Anybody who's on stage, camera from a distance, you can really use eyeshadow to your advantage to make your whole face look lifted. And then you're like, okay, I did that, but I don't think it looks clean and neat. Maybe I got too much on that little brush when I tapped into my shadow. Go back to what you used for your crease and look where I'm blending. Only the edge. Only blend the edge. You don't need to go raking all over everything in your creation, just the edge. That's all that needs the blending right now, okay? Next thing we're thinking about is shimmer on the lid. And you might say, well, okay, flat brush. I just used that flat brush in some dark shadow. Well, one option is to clean that brush off. Once you're sure that all that dark brown is gone, you can go into this. Or oftentimes you see me go into an eye look with yet another Morphe flat brush. This one is the M709. I call this the small, flat, pointed. Look how it's got a little bit of a shape there to it, and it's a little smaller than the other one. And it works awesome for putting a shadow in there. So I'll link to that below if you're interested in having just that additional flat brush you can go to. But for now, in this look, in the spirit of not trying to use too many different things, I'm going to stick with the flat brush I first used, clean it off. We're going to go into this shimmer right here. It's kind of like a bronzy shimmer. Pick some up, and here's where flat brushes are so necessary. Look, the ability to apply pressure and give a little swipe to a color that honestly would want to be pretty flaky with any other kind of application, okay? This lays it down to the best of its ability, makes the absolute most out of that shade with the absolute least fallout all over your face. Okay, everyone needs a flat brush. And this size is honestly really good. The only reason why I reach for that other one is just because sometimes there's something real dark on this and I don't take the time to clean it in between steps. But if you want to minimize purchases, like I said, use this in both flat brush ways. Hopefully what this video amounts to is a really good beginner tutorial just on makeup in general. But it really is all about the brushes, isn't it? Brushes are so important. And then you're like, I bought that little set and now I got this little guy hanging around. Well, use them if you want to. Go into that lightest shade and pop that right around your innermost corner for a little brightness. Why not? You could also use this stiff little brush in your eyebrows too. No problem. Okay, so we've got a nice little blended look there. The last thing I would show you is the small pointed brush taking a dark shadow and how this can make beautiful smudgy liner down here. Look how that shape and size is so perfect for staying targeted to that lower lash line. Not being so small that you can't see what it's done, not being so big that it's sloppy. But look, I mean, if you like to use your liner that way, or this could smudge something out for you too, like a cream shadow. Let's see, am I leaving anything out here? Like I said, for a liner brush, Profusion makes that little double-ended thing. It looks like that. Also, I'm going to go ahead and do my mascara, and if you need a lash comb, Real Techniques makes the perfect one. It comes with a little cap, which is brilliant, so if you had to toss this in a makeup bag full of things, your little prongs don't get messed up. But this little metal brush comb is really good if you like to be able to comb through your lashes. So yeah, I'm going to finish up my lashes and find a lip color, and I'll be right back. Oh, what about a lash curler? Here's where I would splurge. I mean, I could give you the runaround and I could say, oh, you know, this brand makes an okay one. I have learned that Shiseido is the best, and it won't be the type of thing you have to go repurchasing over and over again. But the Shiseido lash curler works the absolute best for me. I will continue testing different lash curlers as time goes on. If I see something come out and I'm like, oh, I haven't used that one from before from the drugstore, I'll try it. I'm open. I would love to find something cheaper than this to recommend, but this would be the one splurge where I'm like, as far as your tools go, get you a good lash curler, especially if you're like me and you have curl challenged lashes and you really do need them to curl well. Get the Shiseido lash curler. And if you have a great drugstore lash curler recommendation to share with the rest of us, pop it in the comments section. Okay friends, what I just did was I applied some e.l.f. lash extender mascara to my top and bottom lashes. I didn't throw on any eyeliner today, but you could in whatever way you want to, you know, liquid, pencil, jumbo stick, whatever it may be. I just didn't choose to go with anything today because I just feel like sometimes my lashes pop a little bit when the dark mascara is going in front of that shimmery lid. So that's what I did there. And on my lips, I used my Hard Candy lip liner. This is in the shade Kiss and Tell. I wanted to mention this because it comes with a built-in lip brush. Every one of these does. So just saying, if you need to blend something out, if you need to take this lip liner and you want to sheer it out on your lips, you have basically like a free brush attached. I think of it that way with spoolies as well on a lot of the brow products. And then for gloss, I'm using this Flower Beauty Gloss Crush Lip Serum, and it's in the shade Amber Crush. So just kind of a nude, peachy nude lip there today. But I hope this video was really helpful for those of you who need some direction on makeup brushes, but also just the basic steps of makeup and how sometimes it can be overwhelming to follow different people who either A, never talk about their brushes, or B, use a ton of different ones, and it's overwhelming to think, where would I begin to start buying and getting some of those same things? Ultimately here in this video, I feel like we were able to boil it down quite nicely to a small amount of brushes, the bulk of them available in like 2 different sets. One's the Profusion Face set, one's the Profusion Eye set, and then just some other little odds and ends that kind of finish things out. Let me know if you have any questions. Let me know if there's any brush or tool you feel was left out of this video that I can offer a recommendation for. I'm sorry about the lash curler. You know, that's just me and that Shiseido curler. I've been using that for several years now. You can buy the little replacement pads. They're not expensive, and just keep using it indefinitely. So thanks again, my friends. Thanks for requesting this video, and I will see you all again very soon. I love you. Bye.